Blindness and eye disease have long been linked with lack of vitamin A. Far less well known is the role it plays in children's resistance to common childhood illnesses. Without enough vitamin A in their bodies, children can't fight off respiratory infections, diarrhoea or measles. 2 million die every year as a result. In northern Ghana, before the introduction of routine immunization and vitamin A distribution schemes, children regularly ended up in hospital.
At one stage, I was keeping the children's ward, and routinely, daily, we signed death certificates for children dying from measles, from malaria, from diarrhea, regularly. And I felt that, well, and half of the ward was full of nothing but measles cases. And we took up the challenge into going into public health. And within 5 years of concerted effort, we were able to reduce the incidence of measles annually from over 25 to 30,000 in the northern region alone to less than 5,000 a year. In public health, our concern is preventing these diseases, and vitamin A provides us with that opportunity in strengthening their resistance to disease.
Since 1996, the Canadian government has provided 1 billion vitamin A capsules through a UNICEF program. National polio immunization and child health days provide a vital thread in the vitamin A distribution network, which now reaches 9 out of 10 children in the country. In the northern region, volunteers distribute capsules to under 5s and mothers of newborn babies.
You know, farming depends on the rain, so once the rain starts, I start work on the farm. But when it ends, I can do this volunteer work.
IDI's role is vital. While the donation of capsules is key to the vitamin A distribution program, its continuing success relies heavily on the goodwill of IDI and volunteers like him. Ezi Amorful believes this will continue.
These village volunteers were already given health services. They were involved in the guinea worm eradication program. And of course, the health workers are part of the health delivery system, and therefore they are already going into the communities and are in touch with these children. Teachers are also part of the Ghana Education Service. So these are existing structures coupled with an intensive information, communication and education program to ensure that our target population are also constantly reminded of the importance to go for capsules, but not only that, but also eat vitamin A rich foods.
Vitamin A is found in a variety of sources: dairy foods, fish and liver, dark green leafy vegetables, fruits like mango and papaya, and red palm oil. But the price of some of these foods, as well as their availability, make changing traditional diets a slow process.
The challenge after this supplementation, the other challenge is to find out whether it can become a regular part of their diet. And that comes with change in the cultural habits of what they eat and how they prepare their food.
You remember the last time we came? And when we prepared porridge, we added palm oil and we made it in the chief's house. This is palm oil, and we bought some fish and meat as well.
We bought some vegetables so you could use that as well.
You can choose either.
We try to teach them to use foods in their cooking. And one of these was preparing porridge and then adding red palm oil. And this is a new thing to most of the mothers because under normal circumstances, they think porridge goes with sugar. But because we wanted to encourage the mothers to give more of vitamin-rich foods to their children, we introduced the porridge with red palm oil to them. We try to encourage the mothers to also eat more of green leafy vegetables. And because we found out that these leaves are available in the village, they normally dry these leaves, not eating them very fresh. So we encourage them to prepare the leaves in their green form, which will help to improve upon the vitamin A.
In another part of the world, in Guatemala, they've come up with a different solution. They use sugar to deliver synthetic vitamin A. It was the fight to save children's eyes that drove doctors to embark on the rocky road to government legislation and get the sugar industry to agree.
It came to points sometimes like some guy came to me and said, listen, how many cases you have now? Okay, how much does it cost to get corneas and to do transportation? Okay, how much? Well, right now about $260,000, quetzales, which at that time was dollars anyway. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to give it to you, but stop trying to fortify sugar. That's much more expensive. Something like that. People came to that point in fighting back one single and cheap measure of public health. And of course, you know, what we did was just to denounce it because it was terrible. And it was a change that Guatemala was going to be a pioneer.
Although fortification of sugar started in 1974, it was sporadic. It wasn't until the mid-1990s that the sugar industry heads finally accepted that they, too, had a responsibility for public health across the country.
I went to all the sugar mills, and I took samples from the children that live there, and I showed them the result with their own children. It was like the children in the family, you know? And they knew that it was right, they knew they were improving on that. And then there was a big fight after that because money was concerned. You know? And at that time we were talking about $3 million worth of vitamin A. It was a large amount of money. And just by chance, I saw the figures of how much they were selling in Guatemala. It was a huge amount of money. And we told them, look, if you sell this much, this is nothing for you. It's a fraction of 1% what you want to spend there. And the benefit will be so large that you may as well be nice enough and do it. And they bought the idea.
I never thought that there was going to be so much impact, even though I believed in fortification. And I thought that the eyes were going to be the ones that really would get healthier. But to know what you see in statistics in child survival, and fortunately we see now also around the world where it has been used, that this is the main role that we get from vitamin A. These preventive measurements, which can reach a very large population of children, definitely will save money because when you see a child like just looking into blindness, a child that goes blind, how much does it cost to the state if they are going to have 40, 45, 60 years of life? That will be really very expensive for the society.
There is some Western criticism of sugar as a vitamin A carrier, but Guatemalans claim fortifying sugar is the best way of reaching the maximum number of people because it's such a basic part of the national diet. But it doesn't reach everyone. With such a scattered population, in rural areas in particular, 1 in 5 Guatemalans miss out, and they're usually those living in the poorest conditions.
The most usual problems we have with the children here are respiratory problems, diarrhea, and intestinal parasitic infections. These are the most frequent problems we see.
The longer term goal is food, just to improve the quality of food of the people, to improve the diet. With a good diet, they shouldn't have any problems or anything. But this is a big order. Eventually it may happen, but it's a big, big order, because you may go to places where you see that the people are so poor that they cannot do much. And the conditions of soil are so extremely poor that there are only very few things that they can grow. Still, if they could improve on that, they could do it.
The charity, ActionAid, works with many people in developing countries, and it agrees that food is the long-term solution to vitamin A deficiency.
No single micronutrient deficiency exists in isolation. Most of the people who suffer from vitamin A deficiency also suffer from all other types of deficiencies, zinc, iodine, etc. So a food-based strategy is a much more integrated way of tackling the problem. In addition, I think if you're talking about food-based strategies, you're also dealing with locally available foods, and you can make it appropriate to local dietary habits and patterns. Bangladesh is a celebrated example of where this seems to be working at a very large scale. Almost 3 million people covered with small-scale kitchen gardens, and not just for people with land, but even for landless people using embankments, common land, as well as poultry, for example.
Plant biotechnologist Ingo Petraikas doesn't believe the existing vitamin A programs are enough. He's devoted the last 10 years of his professional career to developing a genetically modified rice that contains vitamin A. In 1999, he grew the first successful golden rice.
The beauty of genetic engineering is that the entire technology is built into the seed. And if the farmer gets one seed, he can go up a seed. One plant produces about 1,000 seeds. He can grow 1,000 plants. And then he can produce fields and fields and fields with his technology without paying anybody any license or being responsible to anybody.
To date, the technology has cost $2.6 million. The Rockefeller Foundation, which funds many sustainable agriculture programs in developing countries, also funded the initial research into golden rice.
I don't necessarily think it's the best way. It's one of a whole range of things that we have to do. We have to supplement, as I've said already. We have to increase the range of foods that people eat. Those are the kinds of things we have to do. But I think that the vitamin A rice will in particular get to poor families in more remote places.
How will that happen?
Well, they'll either grow it themselves or they'll be able to purchase it. But in the most remote places, we would expect that the rice that they grow will be the vitamin A rice. At any rate, they would grow that rice for their children.
Our biggest concern is the extent to which people themselves are involved in the process of deciding whether or not it should go ahead. We are also dealing with a great deal of uncertainty about the health and social and environmental effects of golden rice. We don't really know enough about it. And of course there's this very practical question of as to whether people would be particularly in South Asia and Southeast Asia, which are the big rice consuming belts, as to whether people would want to go in for a sort of yellow tinted rice when they're very used to dealing with polished rice, which is very white in color, as you know.
My possibilities do not go beyond offering for free, without any restrictions, what we have produced. If some people decide that they want blind children and white rice, it's their decision. I'm offering a possibility of yellow rice and no blind children. But the decision what people want to eat is yes.
70 patents owned by some 32 companies and institutions have been used in developing golden rice. But Ingo Petraikas is confident, after a difficult year of negotiations, that farmers won't have to pay for this technology.
Now, as we have reached a state where we have virtually the agreement of all important patent holders to give free licenses for this purpose, I'm absolutely certain that the farmers will get this material free of charge and free of any kind of obligations or any dependencies from anybody. That's clear.
AstraZeneca is going to do all the biosafety testing and is going to get the patents sorted out. And it has promised that the vitamin A rice and the vitamin A technology will be available for plant breeding institutes in developing countries, in the Philippines and in India and Bangladesh and so on. And I believe it'll do that, and that's what it said it will do. But of course we have to keep the pressure on. There should be a spotlight shone on those companies, and that's where I think activists have a particularly important role to play, is to make sure that multinationals live up to their promises.
Ultimately, the whole debate on GM and vitamin A rice is not any different in that sense, is a debate about control and dependency. And for example, we understand that a lot of the rice which has been earmarked for vitamin A sort of modification are ones which are also dependent on agrochemicals and irrigation. So the whole, the problem of shifting control from poor farmers to larger corporations and forces beyond their control is a big concern. And it's almost like a vertical chain of dependency that's created every time a whole new technology is introduced. I want to say that we're not at all against technology in an absolute sense. Obviously not. I mean, technology has brought many benefits. But at the same time, we're very concerned as to, whether poor farmers will keep losing control over time.
To include poor farmers themselves in the global debate on genetically modified crops, ActionAid set up an unprecedented meeting in southern India this year. Scientists, government officials, NGOs and biotech corporations sat down with the farmers to discuss a full range of issues on food security.
So what we are saying is, probably by selecting the very elite plants and multiplying by this kind of methods of tissue culture, maybe farmer can have a plantations which are of better quality. So this, our experimentation shows there is a great potential in this technology.
I'm the keeper of traditional seeds in my village. When people need them, they come to me because I have varieties of seed no one else has. In the future, I want to conserve even more varieties of seed.
Now a stage has been reached when the farmers will have either to spray or they will have to pray. So we have reached such a situation today. Now it is during this situation that the transgenic technology seems to have come for the rescue of the farmers.
When the Green Revolution came, you said it was a safe technology, but soon we had a lot of problems with the pollution. Now you say biotechnology is best. How can we be sure that after 10 years it will not backfire in a similar way and we will again be the victims?
We are not people who are saying that let's go back to nature, let's not use modern technology. We are saying that use technology very carefully in line with principles which maintain the ecology of the region and also technology in control of the people.
Most of the jury wanted a stop put to GM crops until extensive field trials have been carried out for at least 5 or 10 years. Since we have the real practical knowledge, farmers like me should be made active participants in these trials, not only in yield assessments, but in safety, environmental and other aspects.
We think that in relation to vitamin A rice, it's very important that we go through these kinds of processes at a reasonably large scale, where people themselves can give their views on it. And that's why increasing the awareness of people themselves of their own rights. I mean, in this context, I mean, the rights we're talking about are, for example, the right to have a choice, a real choice, not monopolies in agricultural markets, is a real right which gradually people are losing out on. A right to have self-reliance, to depend on themselves rather than to depend on other people. A right to access to land. These are the types of rights which people have to be aware of and start claiming. There's no shortcut, I don't think. Another very key factor in relation to vitamin A deficiency, as you know, is the whole question of water, sanitation and hygiene. Because if we introduce vitamin A and people are unable to absorb it because of poor water, sanitation and diarrheal conditions, there cannot be a solution which is in isolation.
we are going to have to do the right kinds of tests, health tests, environmental tests, and that's what will now be done to ensure that this is going to be as safe as one can make it. I think it'll come out pretty safe from what I can make out.
Do you have any concerns about the uptake of vitamin A from golden rice by people on meagre diets?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, I think that's the kind of health tests that have to be made. But the health experts who've looked at it at the moment don't seem to be concerned. But we need to look at that more.
Ingo Petraikas is aiming to distribute the golden rice to plant breeders and farmers in the next 3 years. And he is not content with just rice.
We got a patent on producing pro-vitamin A containing crop plants, not only rice. We are involved in helping to transfer the same character into wheat, into African white maize, banana, sweet potato, cassava, other crops. In 10 years from now, there may be all the major staple crops improved with regard to pro-vitamin A supply.
If we're talking about, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years, we are very concerned that the other technologies for dealing with vitamin A deficiency, for dealing with nutritional deficiency generally, are not lost in the meantime, and there are adequate investments which are made in the whole question of sustainable agriculture, public health, water and sanitation, all of which affect the nutritional status of poor households.
Gordon Conway agrees there's no magic solution. He believes that all avenues have to be explored.
Vitamin A is by far the most important of the deficiencies. We're talking about millions of children a year dying because of vitamin A deficiency. It's not just the fact that many of them go blind, it's the fact that they die because they don't have resistance to diseases. What we've discovered, and we discovered this only about 10 years ago, is that children who get a diarrhoea infection tend to die if they don't have a good supply of vitamin A. And that was the discovery that made everybody concentrate on vitamin A.